We're live, Mr. Licorice, over to you.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. And thanks for attending this very important meeting of the Pension Board. No doubt we've got one or two viewers all signing in to watch and listen to proceedings. So I suggest that we introduce ourselves to those people so they know who they're watching or listening to. I'll start with myself. I'm Bill Licorice. I represent the County Council as a member and chair this Pension Board meeting. Councillor Ray Batty.
Hello, my name is Councillor Ray Bhatia. I am a City Councillor from Beaumont Leys Ward, and I'm the Vice Chair of this board. Thank you.
Callum, could you lead the officers?
Certainly, Chairman. Good morning. My name is Callum Faint. I'm the Interim Chief Fire and Rescue Officer for Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. Paul, would you like to go next, please?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Weston. I'm the Assistant Chief Fire Officer representing Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Paul. Mick Grucock.
Morning, everyone. Mick Grucock, the Assistant Chief Fire and Rescue Officer, also of Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Mick. I'll go to you next, Colin, if I can do, please.
Colin Sharp, Deputy Director of Finance at Leicester City Council and representing the Treasurer and Pension Scheme Manager.
Thank you, Colin. Can I come to you now, Sean, please?
Morning, I'm Sean Connor, Senior HR Partner from Derbyshire Fire and Rescue, and recently a tri-service agreement has been signed to use my role to coordinate the three pension boards.
Thank you, Sean. And by last but no means least, Lauren, over to you.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Haslam. I'm a monitoring officer at the County Council, but also the monitoring officer for the Fire Authority.
Thank you, Lauren. Chairman, that's the officers done. If you'd like to hand over to...
Okay, we'll go over to the Fire Brigade Union now. Adam.
Yes, good morning. Adam Taylor, Regional Secretary for the Fire Brigade Union and Leicestershire employee rep to this local pension board. I'll hand over to Graham Vaux.
Morning all, Graham Vaux, Chairman of the Fire Brigade Union Leicestershire and employee rep for the local pension board.
And Mark.
Morning all. Yeah, I'm Mark Drinkwater, Fire Brigade Union Brigade Secretary.
Thank you. I don't know whether Dave Fernley's joined us, Anna.
Sorry, no, I don't think he has. Let me just double check. No, he hasn't. He's not been able to join.
If he had been here, folks, Dave represents the Fire Officers Association. So thanks for everybody for that. It makes it clearer to people watching and looking in.
Mr. Licorice, it's Anna. Adam Taylor's got his hand up.
Adam.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Can we just clarify the constitution, the attendees for this meeting, please? I know that Anna suggested that cameras are turned off for officers that aren't part of the pension board. Can we just clarify that for the start of the meeting?
Can you clarify that for me, Anna, please?
Yes. Members of the local pension board are the two councillors, Mr. Licorice and Councillor Ray Battier, and two employee reps who at the moment are yourself, Adam Taylor, and Graham Vaux.
Thank you. Appreciated.
Thank you. Any apologies, Anna?
No, none received.
Okay, we'll go to item 2 then, minutes of the local pension board that was held on the 10th of February. Anybody got any comments on that meeting? No, we'll take it as read then. Thank you. Item 3, is there any conflicts of interest on what we're about to discuss? No. And we'll come to item 4 then, for the chief to present the firefighters pension scheme age discrimination remedy. Chief.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologise for the length of the paper. However, I do think it's really important that the board are cited on this matter.
Very comprehensive.
Thank you. Both in terms of the dynamic issues that are evolving and the risks that it presents both to the authority but also to potentially individual scheme members at the same time. The matter is incredibly complex, and as I present this, it's still very subject to change. We are anticipating to have some guidance from Her Majesty's Treasury at some point in this month, which may provide some solutions to some of the issues that we're facing, but it's unlikely to provide a solution to all of them. If any technical matters do arise to do with the pension scheme, I would probably defer those to Sean Connor as the subject matter expert from the service's point of view. So if there are any technical questions, I'll very much swerve them and hand them over to Sean. So members will be aware that in 2015, the central government introduced a new pension scheme for firefighters. In the years that have subsequently passed, a legal challenge was mounted against that by the Fire Brigade Union, and in particular the transition arrangements of that case. That challenge was successful in the courts, and that ruled that the introduced new scheme, the transition arrangements were discriminatory based on the grounds of age. At this point, pension schemes pretty much accepted the ruling, but were unable to pay out correctly, as all the supporting guidance, technical notes and supporting legislations didn't currently permit this or give the mechanisms for us to do this. This was again recently challenged by the Fire Brigade Union in an employment appeal tribunal, and that case was put that it's simply not acceptable to continue to detriment individuals while waiting for the guidance and the technical aspects to be updated. On the 12th of February this year, the Employment Appeal Tribunal gave the ruling that agreed with the FBU's standpoint, and in effect that means we need to take action now to resolve all of the immediate detriment cases, and waiting for the guidance or technical aspects to be updated is simply not a tenable position anymore. Hence the need for this paper to come to the board today. Through discussions with the Local Government Association, the Monitoring Officer, the National Fire Chiefs Council, our pension advisor and indeed other fire and rescue service, the board are asked to note the recommendations and the use of the urgent action by the Chief Fire Officer. This approach is commonly being seen as the best way to minimise the risks to the CFA, but I must stress that the approach will remain under review, and as new guidance is released and updated, we will look to incorporate this and report back as soon as practical, either to the pension board or to the full combined fire authority. There are still some risks that are still present with this approach, and there are indeed many unknowns. Each case will need to be worked through and calculations made using some assumptions that may later be found to be incorrect. What is clear is that individuals and the cases will almost need to be done on an individual basis, looking at the individual circumstances, their positions in the service, their rates of pay and pensionable allowances. This may be a relatively simple operation for some cases, or it may be incredibly complex for other cases. So the timescales to do this are as yet an unknown for each individual cases. It's also clear from government expectations that any individual looking to revert back into the 92 scheme, or sorry, take their benefits as if they were in the 92 scheme, will have to pay outstanding contributions. And the government has also suggested they will need to pay interest payments on that, but it is unclear at what rate they expect those payments to be made. This is likely to cause an annual allowance tax breach for the individuals for their annual pensionable annual year. And this is currently foreseen, with the numbers we believe we're looking at, this is currently foreseen to affect all ranks within the fire and rescue service. So from a firefighter up to any senior officer retiring from the service, it is likely they will breach their annual tax allowance for pension inputs. This is an individual matter between how much is Revenue and Customs and the firefighters themselves, and is not an issue that we can particularly support them with. However, there is the potential in the future that the Treasury or HMRC will change the tax rules and provide some mechanism for this. But at the moment, I can't tell you what that looks like, or indeed when it will come into force, if at all. The administrative burden of going back and reviewing the cases is likely to be high. As I've kind of already said, every circumstance will be individual. We have now received a government grant in the region of £39,000 to support Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service in appointing someone to help work through this. And the suggested recommendations and the urgent action that I've taken is putting about the mechanisms to us to start to address these matters in a priority-based order. I think it's fair to say the recommendation A1 and A2 are the priorities, and then as and when the capacity is in the organisation and we've remedied those first 2 points, we'll go back to look at those who've retired in recommendations A3 and A4. I'm happy to take any questions, Chairman, although if they're of a technical nature, I will happily swerve them and send them back to Sean. But I also appreciate this is a vast area with a massive amount of information contained within the paper. So thank you, Chairman. Back to you.
I think you're on mute, Mr.
Mr. Licorice, you're on mute.
Yeah, before I open it up for comment, perhaps I could go to the Director of Legal Services, Lauren, please, to see if there's any other comments been made between meetings that we should be aware of.
And I don't think there's anything I can usefully add to the presentation that the Chief Fire Officer has given to you, Chairman. I think it covers everything that I think needs to be said. It's obviously a difficult scenario, fluid in many ways, and we are in the hands of others to some extent as we await the guidance to enable some of the very technical issues to be resolved. But as Callum's outlined, that isn't to say we can't make progress and that we have to make progress in light of the EAT judgment that he referred to. So I think the direction of travel that's set out in the report and recommended to you fits, I think, the best way forward for the authority and for the service in managing the claims that are ongoing.
Thanks, Lauren. It's open for comment or question then, please.
I have Graham Vaux for you, Mr. Licorice.
Graham.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Callum. So my question's in relation to calculations. I know we've not got the scheme administrator here, but in terms of pension calculations for those that would like an estimate to make decisions on for their retirement, from what point will they receive calculations based on these changes, and will they receive two different calculations when they are asked for?
Thank you for your question, Graham. Are you okay for me to answer, Chairman?
Yes, indeed. Go on, please.
Obviously, contained within the detail of this and within the EAT ruling was obviously the deferred choice for individuals. So it will be an individual choice should they choose to take the pension benefits either in the 15 scheme or indeed the 92 scheme, and that's for the time period between the introduction of the new scheme, which was April 2015, and the effective end date of the transitional arrangements, which I believe is April 2022. So that 7-year period will be offered to an individual as a deferred choice of which scheme they would like to take their benefits in. For them to have a accurate and a reasonable understanding of what either one of those looks like, we will have to provide two the words pop straight out of my head, two quotes or pension benefit statements so that they can understand the choices they're making. I think the bits that are really uncertain that I haven't got an answer to is the potential tax implications for the individual if they choose to take the benefits in the 92 scheme. I'm hoping that the Treasury guidance will allow that or provide that in the next 2 weeks or so. But without having seen the draft guidance, I can't answer because I don't know. What we have, or what I would probably say is, the calculations that Sean have done for a firefighter would suggest there will be a significant tax burden on someone in the region of sort of between £25,000 and £28,000. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Graham, but it's probably the best I can give at the moment with the guidance that's available.
Back to you, Graham.
Yeah, thanks for that, Callum. So next part of that question is, are the administrators in a position to provide two estimates from obviously the decision of this meeting going forwards? Are they able and in a position to provide two estimates for those that want to make decisions? And I will at this point raise concern over those tax implication issues. It seems unreasonable that we're remedying a discrimination claim case that was successful, and members are now facing a tax bill that they wouldn't have faced had they not had that discrimination in the first place. So one final question is, are we doing anything as an authority to appeal to the Treasury in regards to the information that we're waiting for?
If I can take the Treasury question first off, we, along with almost all other fire and rescue services, are working with the local government administration, LGA, to take those issues forward collectively, and that view has been expressed that there are concerns around the impact on individual members, which is where we're hopeful. I say hopeful, where there is talk that HMRC may well review the pension input allowances for this time period. That may take up to 3 years, is the feedback we're getting. So that view has already been expressed through the LGA to central government. With regards to, can you just refresh me what the first part of your question was, Graham? Sorry.
Just whether the scheme administrators are immediately able to provide two estimates and the calculations that members will require to make those decisions.
The scheme administrators are working on the mechanisms to provide those two different estimates. Now, clearly, the 2015 scheme one is slightly easier because that's been in place and running for some period of time. The pension scheme administrators won't necessarily be able to provide completely accurate estimates on the 92 should you choose to take your benefits through that, simply because there's some really complex calculations that need to be done around what role you were in, what allowance you're receiving at the time, the pension contribution rates that apply to you, and then conversely, any pension payments that you do pay into the scheme actually receive a tax-free allowance. So there is a bit of money to come back towards the individual member, but then we have to apply what potentially interest rates will go to those contributions, which at the moment the government haven't given us indication of what interest rate should be applied. Now, we can have a estimate at that, and the pension scheme administrator will apply any estimate that we put forward, but they will only administrate the scheme that we ask them to administrate. So ultimately, I think that's probably a decision for us. We're in close discussion with West Midlands Fire and Rescue Service, and ACO Mick Grucott might be able to give a bit more detail about that, as they seem to be the one leading the way with this. So we would probably look to replicate their calculation methods for the time being. But please accept the fact that some of these calculations may be incorrect or need adjusting later on, and that may be either in the favour of the member or towards the detriment of the member. But that's the situation we find ourselves in at the moment, that we have to move forward with it and accept almost that some of the calculations may be incorrect. Chairman, are you okay if I bring ACO Grucott in at this point to see if he's got anything to add? Mick, do you want to add anything about West Midlands at all?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Callum, as well. Yeah, if I can, I think to answer your question, or if I've understood your question correctly, Graham, you'll be aware that we're at the time of the year where the annual benefit statement is provided by the pension administrator. And this year, what they're going to do is not to provide a forecast in relation to what your pension benefits may look like as a result of the complexities that have been outlined earlier this morning. their current position, as in West Yorkshire's current position, on providing estimates for cases that are not being treated under the immediate detriment, will be for protected members, for those that have got retirement dates to the 31st of March 2022, and for transitional members 6 months into the future on a rolling basis. So obviously there is a high level of work needed to be done to achieve calculations for everyone, which clearly wouldn't be useful at this stage based on the complexities and the accuracy not being where we'd want them to be. But there is still obviously that facility for those that are considering retirement to get a estimate. But again, depending on where they sit within that scheme, it can look different depending on what they ask for. Was there anything else that you wanted me to add to that at all?
Not from my perspective, Mick. Anything from you, Graham?
Not from me. Thank you, Callum and Mick, for answering that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Anna, waiting?
No, there isn't. I did see that Sean Connor had his hand up, but he's taken it down.
Yes.
I don't know whether he had a question.
Sean, did you have a question or?
Thank you. I raised my hand because I was going to bring West Midlands experience into account, but Mick Brewcroft answered the question for me. Thank you.
Okay. Oh. It doesn't seem as though we've got any more.
No, there's no other questions. Oh, there is. Callum's put his hand up.
Callum.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I just wanted to add, because I didn't cover it in my first kind of introduction to the paper. As we get down to reviewing retrospective cases, there is another potential risk that I feel I should highlight at this stage. So if someone has already retired from the service and is receiving a pension of one form or another within the schemes, it is likely they received a tax-free lump sum. If it turns out that calculation is incorrect and they are due for another lump sum payment, it is entirely likely that lump sum will also be taxable. Now, in many ways, that's a good news story for the person receiving the pension, but I would suggest from their perspective, it doesn't feel like good news, as they're potentially picking up another tax bill that they weren't expecting, or not receiving the full amount of the pension. And again, we hope that HMRC and the Treasury are able to resolve some of these issues for us, but it is out of our control. And I just wanted to raise it because obviously that has a potential significant impact on the members receiving the pension benefits. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Callum. If there's no other comments or questions, then I'll refer to the recommendation on the paper, and it is recommended that, noting further advice and guidance from the Local Government Association, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, and Her Majesty's Treasury, it is likely in the near future that the Local Pension Board supports the following. 1. The tapering of members onto the FPS 2015 scheme shall cease with immediate effect. 2. Pension scheme members who are approaching retirement and any ill health related cases to be provided with the choice to have retirement benefits calculated in their legacy scheme or in the FPS 2015. 3. A retrospective review of the calculations for pensioners who retired after the 1st of April 2015 on the grounds of ill health, with a view to moving them back into their legacy scheme at an early stage, where appropriate. And 4, a retrospective review of all retired members since the 1st of April 2015, with a view to moving them back to their legacy scheme, where appropriate. B. The LPB notes that the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer and Treasurer, using existing delegated powers and following consultation with the Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Combined Fire Authority, will request the Scheme Administrator to implement the above recommendations and will meet any necessary and appropriate costs, including any identified additional internal resource. And C, the LPB notes that a further report will be submitted when further advice and guidance is received to enable the LPB and CFA to consider the wider implications. I'll move the recommendation. Amanda, would you be happy to second that?
Yes, I'm happy to second it, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Licorice, do you want to check that all the pension board members are in support or for?
Yes, okay. Everybody happy to go along? I think we're. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. It seems like it, Anna. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
I think the next item on, it's all right, I've got the papers a little bit mixed up. Date of next meeting then, and that will occur on the 16th of June. I wish you well for that. I won't be there. I'm finishing as a county councillor this time, so you'll have a fresh face as chairman. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for your contributions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Licorice, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Callum's got his hand up. I don't know if he wants to say something.
Yes, please, Anna. Sorry, Mr. Licorice, I wasn't aware that you were standing down, so I just wanted to thank you for all your efforts on both the Fire Authority and the local pension board. It's very much appreciated, and I hope whatever it is you're going on to do, that you're able to do so with a smile on your face and a lot of pride of what you've done for the authority. So thank you.
Thanks, Callum. Bless you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day. It looks good.